boy's blood was still warm when I found him floating in the cargo bay, tethered to nothing but the cold embrace of vacuum. 3 laser burns through his chest, precise as a surgeon's cuts, told me everything I needed to know about who'd done this and why. My name is Ezra Caine, and I used to be a star marshal. Used to be a lot of things, truth be told, but 15 years ago, I hung up my badge and swore an oath that my weapon would never leave its holster again. That oath had kept me breathing through a dozen close calls and twice as many sleepless nights. Now, staring at young Tommy Voss's lifeless eyes, I felt that promise cracking like ice under a heavy boot. Meridian Station hung in the void like a rusted crown, its docking arms reaching out into the black like the fingers of a drowning man. I'd helped build this place back when it was nothing more than a mining platform and a dream. Fought tooth and nail to free it from the corporate syndicate's stranglehold. Put my own blood in these corridors, and the blood of better men than me. The rebels I'd armed and trained had promised they'd make it a sanctuary. A place where honest folk could make an honest living without some distant board of directors taking their cut. For a while, it seemed like they'd kept that promise. But promises, like ice, have a way of melting when the heat gets turned up. I sealed Tommy's body in the cargo container where I'd found him, whispering the old spacer's prayer my father had taught me. The boy couldn't have been more than 16, all elbows and enthusiasm, working the docks to send money back to his family on the outer colonies. He'd been saving up to buy passage to the inner systems, wanted to study engineering at the academies on New Geneva. Now he was just another casualty in someone else's war. The station's corridors buzzed with the kind of nervous energy that comes before a storm. I kept my head down, and my coat pulled tight, the weight of my sidearm a familiar comfort against my hip. 15 years I'd carried that iron without drawing it. 15 years of walking away from fights, of swallowing pride, of letting other men's justice take its course. But Tommy Voss hadn't been other men's justice. Tommy Voss had been murder, pure and simple. The Rusty Bolt Cantina sat in the station's belly, like a cancer. All smoke and shadows and the kind of laughter that cuts like broken glass. I pushed through the crowd, ignoring the stares that followed me. Word travels fast in a closed system, and my face was the kind that stuck in memory whether you wanted it to or not. Marcus Webb held court at the back table, same as always. 20 years ago, he'd been a scrappy kid with fire in his belly and revolution in his heart. I'd taught him how to strip a rifle, how to read corporate patrol patterns, how to turn righteous anger into effective action. Now he wore silk instead of canvas, and his revolution had turned into something else entirely. "Ezra Caine," he said, not looking up from his cards. "Heard you were back in civilized space. Thought you'd sworn off places like this." "Thought you'd sworn off killing children," I replied, pulling out the chair across from him. The other players scattered like leaves in a hurricane. Marcus finally looked up, and I saw what 15 years of power had done to those young eyes. They were cold now, calculating. The fire was still there, but it burned different. Hungrier. "Careful, old man. That sounds dangerously close to an accusation. Boy named Tommy Voss. Worked the cargo docks. Someone put 3 holes in him and left him to drift. Docks are dangerous. Accidents happen." I leaned forward, letting my coat fall open just enough to show the badge I still carried, tarnished and bent, but still legal. "I'm making this official, Marcus. Who killed the boy. His laugh was like grinding gears. You, official, last I heard you'd gone soft, sworn off violence, taken some kind of monk's vow. What was it you used to say? The gun doesn't make the man, but it sure as hell can unmake him. Still believe that? Then you won't mind if I don't answer your questions. The cantina had gone quiet around us, the kind of silence that comes when predators circle. I could feel eyes on me from every corner, hands drifting toward weapons, muscles tensing for violence. This was Marcus's kingdom now, and I was just another aging gunfighter who'd overstayed his welcome. But I'd been in tighter spots than this, and I'd made a promise to a dead boy. Tommy wasn't involved in your business, I said. Wasn't political, wasn't armed, wasn't a threat to anyone. So why? Marcus set down his cards and leaned back in his chair. You really want to know? Because you taught us too well, Marshal. You taught us that sometimes good men have to do terrible things. That sometimes the only way to protect what matters is to eliminate what threatens it. And what exactly did that boy threaten? Change. Marcus's smile was sharp as a blade. See? Tommy Voss had a problem with keeping his mouth shut. Started asking questions about where certain shipments were going, why certain cargo containers were sealed, why certain people were making certain payments to certain officials. Questions that could have brought the wrong kind of attention to our operation. What operation? The same one you started, Ezra. Liberation, freedom, just on a larger scale than you ever imagined. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. You're running slaves. I'm running a revolution. The corporate syndicate is stronger than ever, spread across 100 systems, grinding honest folk under their boot heels. Someone has to fight back. Someone has to be willing to get their hands dirty. By selling people. By funding the cause. You think revolutions run on good intentions and righteous anger? They run on credits, Ezra. Credits and ships and weapons and the kind of hard choices you were never willing to make. I stood up slowly, my hand not quite touching my gun, but close enough to send a message. The boy dies for this? The boy dies because he couldn't understand that sometimes the greater good requires individual sacrifice. Just like you're going to die if you don't walk away from this table and off this station. Can't do that, Marcus. Why? Because of some misguided sense of justice? Because you feel guilty about what you helped create here? Or because you're finally ready to admit that your oath was just another form of cowardice? The words hit like physical blows, but I kept my voice steady. Because I made Tommy Voss a promise. You made him a promise. Boy's been dead for 6 hours. Promised his ghost I'd see justice done. Marcus laughed again, but there was an edge to it now. Justice. From the man who hung up his guns rather than face the consequences of his own actions. You want to know about justice, Ezra? Justice is what happened to the corporate enforcers who used to run the station. Justice is what happens to anyone who tries to stop us from spreading freedom to every corner of the galaxy. Freedom. I tasted the word like poison. That what you call it when you chain people in cargo holds? I call it war. And in war, there are always casualties. The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. I could feel the weight of every decision I'd made over the past 15 years, every fight I'd walked away from, every time I'd chosen peace over justice. The gun at my hip felt heavier than a collapsed star. You're not walking away from this one, are you? Marcus asked. No, I said. I'm not. He nodded to someone behind me, and I heard the whisper of weapons being drawn. Then you're going to die for nothing, just like the boy. Maybe, but at least I'll die trying to be the man I used to be. The first shot came from my left, a plasma bolt that would have taken my head off if I hadn't been moving. 15 years of rust fell away like old paint as I rolled behind an overturned table, my hand finally closing around the grip of my sidearm. The weight of it felt like coming home. Marcus's men were good, but they were used to fighting scared dock workers and corporate security forces. They weren't used to fighting someone who'd learned his trade in the asteroid wars, who'd cut his teeth on pirates and slavers, and the kind of men who'd kill you for the coins in your pocket. My first shot took down the gunman to my left, a clean hit through the center of mass. My second scattered the crowd, sending civilians diving for cover. My third punched a hole through the cantina's main support beam, bringing down a shower of sparks and twisted metal. "You always were too sentimental, Ezra," Marcus called out, his voice echoing from somewhere in the smoke. "That's why you could never finish what you started." I moved through the chaos like a ghost, using the overturned tables and scattered debris for cover. My gun spoke again and again, each shot precise and purposeful. No wasted ammunition, no unnecessary killing, just the cold, clean mathematics of violence that I'd spent 15 years trying to forget. But Marcus was right about one thing. I was sentimental. And that sentimentality had cost Tommy Voss his life. I found Marcus behind the bar, his own weapon drawn, waiting for me with the patience of a man who'd learned his lessons well. Too well. 15 years, he said. 15 years you could have been helping us build something better. Instead, you ran away and let other people fight your battles. I didn't run away. I chose a different path. You chose the easy path. The path that let you sleep at night without thinking about the consequences of your actions. He was probably right. But right and wrong had stopped mattering the moment I'd found Tommy's body floating in the dark. "Maybe," I said. "But I'm here now." "Yes, you are. And now you get to live with the consequences of breaking your precious oath." We faced each other across 10 feet of smoke-filled air. Two men who'd once fought side by side against a common enemy. Now we were the enemy, each of us shaped by the choices we'd made and the prices we'd paid. "Tommy Voss," I said. "What about him?" He was going to be an engineer, going to build things instead of tearing them down, going to make the galaxy a little bit better than he found it. And now he's dead, just like you're about to be. Maybe, but his death means something now. Means the end of your operation, the end of your revolution, the end of whatever you've turned this place into. Marcus's smile was sad and tired and full of the weight of years. "You think killing me changes anything? You think one old gunfighter can stop what we've started?" "No," I said, "but I can stop you." The draw was faster than thought, faster than conscience, faster than the voice in my head that screamed about oaths and promises, and the man I'd tried to become. My gun cleared leather and spoke its piece while Marcus was still reaching for his weapon. The shot echoed through the cantina like thunder, and Marcus Webb crumpled to the floor, his revolution dying with him. I stood there, in the smoke and silence, my gun still smoking in my hand, and felt the weight of 15 years crash down on me like a collapsing star. The oath was broken, The promise was kept. And somewhere in the space between those two truths, I tried to figure out what kind of man I was now. The answer came in the form of footsteps behind me. Station security, probably. Or maybe more, of Marcus's people looking for revenge. I turned, my gun still drawn, and found myself facing a young woman in coveralls, her face streaked with tears and engine grease. "You're him," she said. "You're the Marshal." "Used to be. Tommy. Tommy was my brother." I felt something break inside my chest, something that had been holding me together for 15 years. "I'm sorry. He talked about you, said you were the one who freed this place, who gave people like us a chance. I did a lot of things, not all of them good." She looked at Marcus's body, then back at me. "Will it stop now? The disappearances, the fear, it'll stop. And the people they took, the ones in the cargo holds?" I thought about that, about the choices ahead and the prices still to be paid. "I'll find them, all of them." She nodded and walked away, leaving me alone with the dead and the weight of promises both broken and kept. I holstered my gun and walked out of the cantina, past the stares and whispers, past the judgment of people who'd never had to choose between their principles and their conscience. Meridian Station stretched out around me, a maze of corridors and compartments, and the dreams of people trying to build something better in the dark between the stars. I'd helped create this place, then walked away when it needed me most. Now I was back, and the boy's blood was on my hands along with everything else. But Tommy Voss would sleep quiet now, and maybe in time, so would I. The stars wheeled overhead as I made my way to the docking bays, my badge heavy in my pocket, and my gun heavy on my hip. There were cargo holds to search, people to free, and a reckoning that was 15 years overdue. I'd broken my oath, but maybe, just maybe, I'd found my way back to being the man I was supposed to be all along. The boy's ghost walked beside me as I headed for the outer rim, where the real work waited. And for the first time in 15 years, I wasn't walking away from a fight. I was walking toward one.